welcome to Argyle TV. And Argyle will be wanting to start this new year on a better note than they ended the last one. It's been a tricky Christmas period for everyone, there's no denying, but you know what they say, new year, new me. And it certainly is a new Argyle. Wayne Rooney left the club yesterday, leaving Kevin Nanscoville and Joe Edwards in charge for today's game. And we are playing none other than Bristol City. And it's never a boring one at home park, that's for sure. Hello, good afternoon. I am Erin Black and welcome to our pre-match show for this afternoon's game against Bristol City. Happy New Year. Anything big happen in the last 24 hours? We'll see what happens. It's a new year, certainly a new dawn for Argyle. Wayne Rooney and the club mutually parted ways just yesterday morning following a run of 9 matches without a win. And 6 of those defeats left them bottom of the championship table. 4 points adrift of safety, but everyone will be looking to put that right this year in 2025. There'll be a lot to discuss ahead of kick-off today. And as ever, Argyle TV is the place to hear it all. Match passes for all of the action this afternoon, both video and audio, are available over on the website. You want to head over to pafc.co.uk to get all the details on that. And I'm very pleased to say, joining me, fresh on this New Year's Day, is none other than former Argyle defender Mark Edworthy. Mark, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, Erin, and welcome to a beautiful sunny afternoon at Home Park. It's wonderful, isn't it?
It's a new year, new day, same weather, same Plymouth.
But we love it. That's the good thing about it. We love it. And yeah, it's been an amazing 24 hours, hasn't it? Firstly, Happy New Year to all our fans. Everybody hope the best wishes for the 2025 season. And yeah, it's been a huge change. Football changes very quickly. Obviously, Wayne Rooney leaving the football club. Everybody gets disappointed. We wish him all the best and thank him for his services, and that's what we're in. We're in the results-based business, unfortunately. You know, that last result at Oxford was very unfortunate, and he's parted ways.
Yeah, I mean, you know, important to note, it's a mutual decision between Rooney and the club. It seems like, you know, they've left on good terms. I think, you know, he was around saying goodbye to everyone. Unfortunately for him, it just didn't work out with the, you know, with the games and the runs of form that we've had.
Yeah, I think it's always difficult. You know, to get Wayne Rooney out of the football club was a huge coup for the football club. It really was. And unfortunately, you know, we are in a results-based business. It's a cliche, isn't it? Away from home, we weren't picking up enough results and enough points, and that just puts pressure on the home games. And at times, I've openly said with Charlie and yourself, we played superbly well here at times. You know, some brilliant results against Blackburn, Sunderland, playing some great football. But it wasn't sustainable, wasn't it? It wasn't consistent results, and unfortunately we find ourselves, you know, rock bottom at the moment. But on the positive side of it, we're halfway through the season. We've got 23 games to hopefully put that right.
Yeah, I mean, it's a poignant moment, poignant time of the year to kind of have that fresh slate. And we've got Nance, of course, in the dugout this afternoon. We're used to seeing him taking over, you know, previously when we've had a change of managers and head coaches. But he's joined by Joe Edwards this afternoon.
Yeah, interesting. I think what it is, you always find there's a spike in results when a new manager comes in, but you've got Joe Edwards, the club captain, you know, passion. He knows what it's all about. The players know him well. And the same with Kev. Kev's been here for years. I've known Kev for years. So it's, you know, business as usual. But what the players have got to realise is they've got to take, you know, you've got to take a look at themselves at times. They haven't become bad players overnight. They're championship players. They got here for a reason. But it's now time to really dig deep. You know, their performances have to improve individually and collectively, and they've got to take a look at themselves, and that's what they'll certainly do. That's not a criticism, but they've got to change this results, or else, you know, we're going to find it really tough in the second half of the season. Yeah,
and really over the past couple of seasons, we've kind of got used to a bit of a turbulent change in management. So Nance is certainly a very safe, sturdy pair of hands because he's guided Argyle through those transition periods before, and no doubt will again.
Yeah, I think he's so experienced at that. He's had to do it a number of occasions, and he's probably the right man to do it. Having Joe Edwards with him, the club captain, the players look up to him. He knows what it's like to wear the shirt and the passion of the football club and the fans. And I think they've just got to said, look, we're halfway through the season. It's almost like a clean slate. Some players that maybe not in favour of Rooney may come in and play.
Yep.
Be interested to see when we look at the team sheet. And players have just got to look at themselves and say, OK, this is time to perform and time to take each game as it comes. Bristol City's that game today and start that campaign of trying to get ourselves out of trouble.
Yeah, how are you feeling going into this afternoon's game with everything that's gone on? Do you think, with the changes, with this fresh start, it's one that Argyle maybe can bounce back on?
Yeah, I think you have to. I think the good thing about it is we're not talking about only like 5 or 6 games after the season, because I think we'd be in serious trouble. We're at the halfway mark. We've played 23 games to come, and it's a repeat. We've got to do better against the teams in previous. So Bristol City, we know what happened back in November. We were heavily defeated away from home. Let's put the record straight. Let's beat them here now at Home Park, and that's the way you start getting points and start slowly getting confidence back, and hopefully climb time in the table. Yeah,
that's very true, because of course when you bring a team back home, especially if you've lost to them before, you're really going to want to pull the stops out and make sure they don't get one over on you twice.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, you were heavily defeated at Bristol, so you don't want to let that happen. It's a bit of pride and passion, which they know we're home now, so let's make sure that doesn't happen again, and let's set the record straight and beat them here. Yeah, okay, well, let's have a look at the two teams then and see who Joe and Nance have chosen for the starting lineup today. We'll start with Argyle, of course. Connor Hazard in goal this afternoon, Barley Mumba, Julio Plegathuelo, Cornell Suge, Ryan Hardy, Morgan Whittaker, Darko JB, Adam Randall with the captain's armband, Brendan Galloway, Rami El Haj and Matthew Sorinola. And on the bench we've got Grimshaw, Ogbeta, Houghton, Sissoko, Obafemi, Gray, Forshaw, Finn and Palson. Mark, what do you make of the starting lineup that Joe and Nance have chosen? Yeah, a couple of changes. I think Gibson's probably a loss because of his injury, but it's an opportunity for players to say to Kevin, Joe, the interim managers and assistant manager at the time, to say, look, I'm worthy of starting in this team. And I think now all that goes out the window. It's about personal pride, it's about individual performances. And today's going to be a tough game. Every game in the Championship's tough, Erin. We knew we survived on the last game of the season, so that shows how tough it is. But the good thing about this is, as I said, if we're going to talk on a positive note, we've got 23 games to put that right. Yeah, I remember making his 100th start for the club today. That'll be a big moment for him. How have you found how he's been playing so far this season? Yeah, I think it's a magnificent achievement for Bally when he came here on loan. Along with Morgan Whittaker, they were magnificent, and then they made it permanent, which is great from the club. And he's played in a number of positions, hasn't he? I mean, he's played in that full-back position, and I prefer him really in that attack and row. He scored some wonderful goals as well, and he's so dynamic at going forward. But when you're in that defensive row, he has played in, operated out of the full-back position on a number of occasions. It's a different challenge. You're up against someone who's quick and fast, and I think he preferred to do that in the attacking third. Yeah, well, you mentioned Morgan Whittaker. It is 99 games today, so next one very likely to be his 100th. So they are kind of neck and neck in terms of the amount that they've been playing. And Sissoko on the bench, he has been missed, hasn't he? Yeah, going back to Morgan, I think it's players like him, we've got to look up to him, and he can change games, and he's got to bring something to the table as well, along with Bally Mumba. Sissoko, yeah, he's been a huge miss. I think he's a fan's favourite, isn't he? He's scored some great goals. He's got that dynamic look about him. He's really positive. He's attacking, and he's been a revelation when he's been fit. So great to see him back on the bench. And we're seeing Adam Randall with the captain's armband. He is Argyle through and through. He has been here, all the way up through the academy. I imagine that will be, nice recognition for him to be wearing that armband today. Yeah, it's great for Adam. I think his performance have deserved that of late. He's been playing in a struggling side, and he probably thinks his performance have dipped a little bit, so he'll want to get back to his best. Passionate as ever, wears the shirt with pride, like all the players do, of course. But to be given the captain armband is, a great achievement for him. I think when we look at the squad we've got today, we are starting to see some of the players that have been out with injuries coming back. Like we mentioned, Sissoko, and we knew, Whittaker was out for a little bit. Oh, hello, Pete. Happy New Year. 3, 1 to Argyle. Thank you very much. Nice positive start to the year. I'm glad he put 3 up to the camera there. I wasn't too sure what he was putting up for a minute.
I would have hated for us to not start the year off with Pilgrim Pete foretelling the score. Talking about the injuries, I mean, we have to factor that in too. I think part of the reason that Rooney has struggled up until the point where he left yesterday, because the team has been hit by kind of an unprecedented amount of injuries.
Yeah, it's really difficult when you are a manager and you're starting 11, you've got that planned out and it's not there, and it goes on for a number of weeks. And obviously then the injury list grew, didn't it? And you do feel for a manager. I know it affects every football club and every manager around the country, but we were really hit by a huge injury list, and it did affect results, because then all of a sudden when you start losing confidence in the team and the results are not coming, then it was a difficult situation for him, and unfortunately that's a circumstance he had to deal with.
Yeah, hopefully the timing works out, that people are starting to come back into better fitness as we carry on through the season, so that we can continue that upwards curve rather than another downwards one.
Yeah, 100%. And I think he was a great guy. He was well liked here. And unfortunately, we are in that results-based business. I keep going back to say that, but Bristol coming to town now, and they're here at home park, and they're in great form. Yeah,
well, let's take a look at the Bristol City side now then, on my soaking wet team sheet out here in the rain. Your Bristol City side for this afternoon: Max O'Leary in goal, Cameron Pring, Max Bird, Scott Twine, Anis Mehmeti, Jason Knight, Zach Viner, Luke McNally, Rob Dickey, George Tanner and Naki Wells, and on the bench Bajic, McCrory, Atkinson, Hirakawa, Mayulu, Bell, Roberts, McGuane and Earthy. Again, Mark, when you look at this side, we know they've beaten us before this season. You said you knew a couple of the players that are going to be quite threatening for Argyle today.
Yeah, Max Bird from the Derby days, obviously Jason Knight, two really good players. They were academy graduates, and they've gone on to be really, really top players in the Championship. A few Premier League players, Premier League team side we're looking at times, but they're a good side. They've just recently beat Portsmouth, obviously back in November. They heavily defeated us 4-0. So they're attacking minded side, and they're looking to get in the other end of the table and really push for that playoff position.
Yeah, I mean, another side who have had their own injury problems as well. It doesn't seem like anyone's really escaped it this season at the minute, but we've got to talk about Mehmeti scoring 2 in that win over Portsmouth. We maybe haven't, we've conceded a hell of a lot of goals, and when you're coming up against players that are scoring 2, like Mehmeti for example in that particular game, you need to be careful, because you don't want to concede more against these kind of guys.
No, I remember the game obviously at Bristol City. They don't concede a lot of goals, and they didn't score a lot of goals, but as of late they started scoring a lot of goals. Obviously 3 against Portsmouth, 4 against us back in November. Mehmeti was one of those players who scored 2 against us and 2 against Portsmouth. He's a real threat, and when confidence are flowing in your team, the players will then want to go and score more goals. So he's a real watch today. We've got to be careful of that, and Argyle really got to go back to being hard to beat. Try with that clean sheet. Clean sheet gets you a point, and then you build from that. But as of late, we've been far too open and conceded too many goals.
Yeah, and conceding them early on in the game as well. Do you think that's part of the problem, is that once you let that first one in, within the first kind of 5, 10, 15 minutes, a little bit of the soul gets sucked out of everyone?
Yeah, certainly. Away from home, I think we did concede too early. And, Wayne Rooney would say that there have been sloppy goals, and he was frustrated at the mannerism we scored goals. But especially here at home park, I remember discussing with Charlie, we do allow too many crosses to come into our box. We have to stop the cross and prevent that, because it's a real danger. So wide areas will be valuably important. I think that showed when we played them down at Ashton Gate. They do get into wide areas, and they will want to put the ball in the box. So that's something we've got to nullify this afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, Bristol seem confident at the moment. Mehmeti's their top scorer with 6. Scott Twine, he's another one to watch. With this confidence, Argyle maybe that's something they've been lacking. We've seen them, against Sheffield United. Yes, we lost, but they played really kind of strong, well together, and then it's kind of dipped off again, and we haven't quite seen them playing like that since.
Yeah, I think the start is very important. Bristol City will be prepared for this. They'll know the manager's gone. They'll expect a little spike from the players. The crowd are going to be really behind them, and the crowd are going to be valuably important today. But they'll be ready for that. They'll want to weather the storm for sort of 10, 15 minutes, and we're going to make sure we're still in that game, and Argyle really start the game well and continue that. Yeah,
well, I think certainly the 12th man here at home park is going to play a very vital part this afternoon, with all the changes that have gone on. And speaking of those changes, following the news yesterday, first team coach Kevin Nanskaville and club captain Joe Edwards have been put in temporary charge for this afternoon's game, and they spoke exclusively with Charlie Price for Argyle TV yesterday.
It happened last season as well, around the Christmas time. and then towards the end of the season, we very much saw that sort of whole club solidarity, solidity, players-wise, supporters-wise, staff-wise. So, not to say that it hasn't happened over the last 4 months or so, but a little moment like this sometimes adds to it, doesn't it, Joe?
It does, yeah. And I think the beauty of this club is that connection that the players have with the club, and that it's their club and it's their passion and everything like that. We're just a part of their history. So forever long we're here, we need to be making sure we're doing everything we can. And I think when changes do happen, which happen in football all the time, like Nance touched on them, we didn't want to see everyone leave and anyone leave, and that has been the case. But you can't sit around and feel sorry for yourselves. We need to come together and produce a performance which galvanises everyone. And like I said, last season we did that by coming together. So I think, again, it's going to be similar sort of messages. And I said we've got a home game, which is brilliant for us, because we can really use the crowd that we know they're going to need them. And yeah, listen, it's going to be a great day.
Yeah. Obviously, the position the club is in at the moment isn't ideal, bottom of the table, without a win for quite a while. Yeah. Nance as well. So, taking everything aside, the importance of getting something against Bristol City has got to be right at the top of the list of priorities.
Well, it's the only priority, isn't it? I mean, that's what we're in football for, and we haven't picked up results well enough over the last 3 or 4 months, and we need to start quickly. And that's been the focus of today, really, to make sure the lads are energised, got the enthusiasm, and go and play with a passion that represents this football club, because our supporters are, I've said it many occasions, are the best, and they need to see that we are right with them, which we are. And hopefully tomorrow we can galvanise the lads and we can put on a performance that makes everyone really, really proud.
Well, it's a very quick turnaround, Mark. Rooney gone yesterday, game today, Joe and Nance taking control. We know that, they know the club inside out, which is really helpful when you end up in a situation like this, where it's still quite a lot of games packed together over that festive period, and you just got to bounce one from the next. How do you think they'll be feeling taking over?
Well, I think, as you rightly said, the festive period is always vital and important. I really think it shapes your season. Lots of games in a small period of time. And obviously Rooney going, the players will be disappointed, they'll be frustrated, and they'll probably look at their own performances, as we've discussed. So Joe's come in with Kevin, they know them well. Training would have been the same. There would probably been a few words just to say, look, we've got to start changing this round with our passion and our pride. And it's time to start today against Bristol City. Looking at the conditions of the weather, give credit to the groundsman, the pitch is in wonderful conditions. So I'm expecting a real fast and furious game, and that should be really mouth-watering to watch.
Yeah, I think there's certainly the absence of Joe on the pitch as the captain has been noticed. He is such a core part of this team that hopefully having him in the dugout today, being able to spur the players on, might be actually really nice to see.
Yeah, I think it would be. I think, Joe was probably in the twilight of his career, left out a few times, but I must admit this season he was in great form, and he would have probably been, one of the first names on the team sheet, playing some great football. His desire, his passion, leads by example, the club captain. I think that'll be needed on the sideline. They do look up for him, and all the players respect each other. As I said, individually now that it's time for the players to say, okay, we've got 23 games to put this right, and the opportunity is there to do that.
Yeah, and hopefully this is the point. We've got enough games left that, yes, while we are a few points adrift at the bottom now, still all to play for.
Yeah, huge. What's it, 69 points to play for? So a lot of points, a lot of games, and the players have got to realise that. But I think we just got to chip away. Bristol City the first one. We got another tough game against Stoke coming up in, again, a short period of time. So lots of games will be coming up, and hopefully time to put that right.
Yeah, and on the flip side, our opposition today, Bristol City, they've actually enjoyed quite a good Christmas, and they're looking to make this afternoon 3 wins in a row. Here is their manager, Liam Manning.
Well, Liam made one change. Ross McCrory drops to the bench. George Tanner comes in. Is that about protecting Ross after his last few injuries?
Yeah, a little bit. I think, it's always a balance. 4 games in 9 days with Ross obviously missed a period, mainly a little bit, down to overload. So again, I think you have to be a little bit smart, a little bit, use common sense a little bit to look after him. So, and George came on and did well the other day. So again, I think it's good to have that option to be able to change, and finding that balance of freshness, looking after people, but also, trying to carry momentum forward from game to game.
How pleased are you with how you've dealt with these last few games? They're coming so thick and fast, and you haven't had to make too many changes.
No, I think it's one of those. I think sometimes it becomes such a big thing now around. You have to change it. We've got so many games, etc. But every team's in the same position. I think momentum's invaluable. So again, you want to try and find that, that sweet spot of keeping people that fresh on the pitch and keeping everybody available, but also carrying forward, momentum, and especially when you perform well recently, you want to continue that.
And of course, Plymouth just made a managerial change 24 hours ago. Does that change anything for you, Reece?
Of course, it makes the planning a little bit more tricky because you don't know what changes they'll make or what they'll do. So we've got a good idea, but at the same point, I think the biggest bit is for us to go and play our game, us solve the problems. You expect them to get a bit of a lift, a bit of a bounce. So we have to make sure we're up for the fight. We have to make sure we want to run, compete, be aggressive in duels, and then go and try and control the game how we want.
And people will look at their league position, but they have been a lot better here at home park, haven't they?
Yeah, tough place to come. 16 points they've picked up here, so huge majority here. We know how difficult it is, the atmosphere, the tight pitch, the conditions, etc., etc. But it's one of those we had a similar experience not so long ago at Portsmouth. Difficult place to go, and we have to use that experience to make sure that we learn from the previous one and go and give a good account of ourselves and come away with something.
You mentioned it there, the conditions. It is pouring with rain, difficult wind. Like you say, you're going to try and learn from what went wrong at Portsmouth with those similar conditions. Yeah, of course we spoke about it. Lads spoke about it. We addressed it. I think we had that extra bit probably last weekend between our teeth to prove a point at home against Portsmouth, and we have to have that same mindset, that same the same energy, the same passion, the same fight that we showed last week. We have to take that into the game today.
Liam Manning there, and they're certainly going to have their eyes on the playoffs, Mark, aren't they? Because
yeah, they're in great form. They've had a great run, a good Christmas period, and they'll be looking at the other end of the table, really trying to get into that playoff position. They know what to expect today with the manager change, as the manager rightly said. They'll be up for this game for sure. When
you're looking at how the game's going to play out then this afternoon, what are you imagining each side is going to try and bring to the table? Of course, we know Argyle don't want to concede, but certainly don't want to concede early.
No, I think you've got to take the game to Bristol City. Don't sit back and embrace, the sort of the occasion. You've got to take the game to them. If we sit back, I think a bit out of peril. I think Bristol City will attack, and as we know, we've been conceding too many early goals. So I think take the game to them, especially at home park. The tempo seems to be improved, and the players really enjoy playing here. So I think we definitely got to take the game to Bristol City today. Yeah, well, clean slate, as you say. Start of a new year. Hopefully they turn it around in the rest of this season of 2025. Really takes off and goes in the direction it needs to. Yeah, it's almost like a clean slate, if you want to call it. A new year, a new start, 23 games to put this right. Yeah, well, fingers crossed. Got to give a shout out to Tats over in Japan, and Tony over in Australia, and Steve as well. Seeing as you are in Australia, of course, you're far ahead into the future than we are, so if you can let us know how the game goes, that would be absolutely fantastic. We're hoping for a win, of course. And Happy New Year to everybody else who is watching wherever you are in the world. We know we've got fans everywhere, from USA all the way over to Australia, as we said. So thank you for getting in touch, and thank you for being here with us. I know Tony specifically said it was very hot over in Oz. We wish it was nice and hot here, don't we, Mark? But unfortunately, you're soaked through. I don't think the waterproofing on that coat's worked. Yeah, exactly. So, with the rain falling here, but it's all set up to be a great game, isn't it? Yeah. It's the game that counts, but we're going to go and dry off, and we're ready to get going here on Argyle TV. So get your match passes now if you haven't got them already. They're over on the website. It's Ian Stonebridge and Charlie Price doing your commentary this afternoon, and it's Argyle versus Bristol City up next.